South Korea is over. This sounds brutal, but it's the beginning of an unprecedented demographic winter.
The country will soon start melting on all fronts, demographically, economically, socially, and culturally.
We have probably reached a point of no return.
What will this collapse look like? And why is it now almost impossible to stop the real population bomb?
To have a stable population, you need a fertility rate of about 2.1 children per woman, the replacement rate. In the 1950s, South Koreans used to have 6 children on average, a booming young society. In the 1980s, the rate fell below 2. By 2023, it was 0.72 kids per woman.
In Seoul, the capital, fertility is even lower, around 0.55. These numbers are a global low.
On average, about half of the women here won't have any kids, and the other half will have just one.
What do these numbers actually mean in the real world? Let's visualize the demographic decay. If we look at today's South Korean population pyramid, we see this reality already taking shape. A clock hand moves slowly for 4 decades.
Today, South Korea's population, workforce, and GDP are all at an all-time high and still growing.
But demographics hits you like a freight train. You hear it vaguely in the distance. The train silhouette rapidly fills the screen, becoming a massive, undeniable force, and then
Let's time travel 35 years into the future. Let's see what the country will look like in 2060.
The most commonly used projections are those put together by the UN, envisaging 3 scenarios.
But in the past, all medium UN projections for South Korea have consistently been too positive and optimistic. We will use the latest low fertility scenario, which has been the most accurate in the last few years.
Let's do it. In 2060, South Korea's population pyramid will look like this.
Population will have shrunk by 30%. 16 million South Koreans will have simply disappeared.
Oldest country in human history. Less than 1 in 10 will be under 25, and only 1 in 100 will be small children. Today, a breathtaking 40% of South Koreans over 65 live below the poverty line. In 2060, even that number may seem lovely in comparison. The crisis will affect everyone.
South Korea has one of the largest pension funds in the world, a massive pile of accumulated wealth. But it's projected to stop growing in the 2040s, and be completely depleted by the 2050s.
So, in 2060, pensions will have to be paid by the working population, a massive burden.
For a pension system to work, you need a minimum of between 2 to 3 workers per retiree.
Except they may not be able to find jobs, because by 2060, the South Korean economy may have collapsed entirely.
Today, South Korea has 37 million people of working age. By 2060, that will have shrunk to 17 million. Of course, technological progress means productivity will be higher. Each individual will produce more. Acknowledging caveat. Another factor is science, technology, and innovation, areas typically driven by the young. Young people have fresh ideas that contribute to the wealth of society. Without them, that engine of progress stalls. Significantly fewer people working also means way less tax for the government's essential services. Government will be trapped between a rock and a hard place. Having to provide for half the population that are seniors, while its income is diminished.
Since infrastructure only works at scale, smaller communities may be abandoned as the country contracts.
And of course, there won't be enough money to invest in the future. The entire national focus shifts to managing decline.
Today, already about 20% of Koreans live alone. 20% report having no close friends or relatives.
By 2060, 50% of South Koreans aged 70 will have no siblings, and 30% will have no children.
The tiny cluster of young Caucasian male figures is shown to be disconnected. This leaves the elderly. What kind of experience will it be growing up in 2060? What will youth culture be like? What kind of job prospects will they face in a collapsing economy struggling to manage the elderly majority?
And what will politics look like when one tiny generation has to represent the future to a massive elderly voting bloc?
We are already seeing this in Japan, which has almost 10 million abandoned houses in rural areas.
Large parts of South Korea will simply vanish from the modern map and be reclaimed by nature. Last but not least, South and North Korea are technically at war and could very well still be in 2060.
Okay, wait. This is all a bit much.
The demographic freight train is shown, moving on a track where the track itself dissolves behind it. There would still be only 1.5 people of working age per senior over 65, still completely unsustainable.
But there is also a kernel of hope here. At least in the long term, recovery is possible.
This is only possible if South Korea enacts rapid and profound societal changes that make its population want to have kids again.
In 2024, births rose for the first time in 9 years, a small sign that the right efforts could pay off.
But for that to continue, South Korea needs to face the music and ask, how did they get to this point?
In general, as societies get richer, more educated, and child mortality plummets, people decide to have fewer kids.
Despite the long hours, South Korea has relatively low wages and a high cost of living.
All of this while, South Korea spends less on family benefits than most other rich countries.
Old-fashioned cultural norms make matters even worse. Marriage is all but mandatory to start a family.
While money men are overwhelmed by the societal expectation to be the main breadwinner and have successful careers.
The bottom line is that South Korea has created a culture that leads to very few kids. The structure.
Demographic collapse is not an abstract thing far in the future. It is happening right now.
And it is not just South Korea. Low fertility is a global trend affecting rich countries everywhere.
A fertility rate of 1.6 means 60% fewer new people after 4 generations. It is still a massive drop.
The future just seems to be too insane to be true.
Low birth rates are mostly discussed in the context of worker shortages, not as the existential threat that they are.
We must take it seriously. and change the very DNA of our modern societies in a profound and meaningful way.
We need to encourage young people to start having children again by making life possible, not a constant struggle.
The demographic freight train is shown, but a small geometric wall of determined light-skinned Caucasian figures. The choices we make in the next decade will determine what the rest of the century will look like for all of us.